Hello and welcome to another video from oorail. In this video we're going to look at the Heljan Class 14. This is in BR green with a running number of D9535. The Heljan product code is 1403 and this is one of several Class 14s that were commissioned by Hattons in Liverpool in the UK. This particular version has a 3-pole motor and has a heavy die-cast chassis, and it came with an extra detailing kit. The detailing kit basically allowed you to put on the brakes on the side, so there's a couple of brakes for each wheel and then the brake rods that interconnect. It wasn't too bad to put those on. There are a couple of different versions of this. This is, like I said, the BR green version. Hattons also have a BR blue version. They also have, I think it's a British Steel version and a Loadhaul Livery version as well. They may have a couple of others, or they may have previously commissioned a few, but those are the ones I think are currently on their website. This is currently on eHattons' website for £89, so if you take about £18 off of that for VAT, it works out roughly about £71 if you're outside the EU. If you're inside the EU, unfortunately, it's still going to cost you £89. It was marked down from £114. Now at £89 it's okay. At £71 it's not so bad. The detailing on it is really good. This particular version is weathered. The weathering on the buffer beam as well as on the side and the undercarriage is pretty good. It has some pretty nice lighting. You'll see there's 2 lights on either side. There's one here and then there's one on this side right here, as well as the head code, which is illuminated. And those, one of them is white, one of them is red. Obviously only one is lit, so when it's going forward the white one is lit, and on the rear the red one is lit, and it switches direction. And unusually for Heljan, usually I'm complaining that Heljan's lights aren't that bright. They must have been listening to me, because other people have complained, because on this model they fixed out that particular problem, that the lighting on it under DC is almost too bright. So they've done a pretty good job. It's pretty close to the prototype, and it looks real nice. So that's the good stuff. It runs very smoothly, especially at slow speeds. Even if you crank up the power on it, it still runs at a fairly realistic speed. You can't easily crank the power up on it and make it look unrealistic. This particular model, which is D9535, it was still around at least in 1982. I think 1982 is the latest photograph I could find of it. And interestingly enough, this particular locomotive was sold to the National Coal Board, at least I think that's what NCB stands for, and it became NCB Loco number 17. So I think these only operated under British Rail until, I'm going to say it was 1969, but I will double check that. Yep, it was run in BR service from July 1964 until April 1969. And then NCB, this particular one was run at Ashington, which is up near Newcastle, up the north of England. And some of the other ones were purchased by British Steel, but this particular D9535 was purchased by NCP and was actually run out of Ashington. So it's a very nice model, and it runs really well, but there were a few problems with it, and I think it's more to do with the design rather than anything that Hattons have done. When the model arrived, there were a couple of problems, and I will point them out to you. First of all, the steps here on the side, they actually are glued to the undercarriage, and what had happened was these had actually, the plastic up around the edge was cracked, so the stairs or steps here were really loose, So I ended up having to push those into place and gluing them. I could have sent it back, but it was something really minor and it was something I could fix, and I really didn't want to have to mess with the return postage, so I glued those back in place and those worked okay. The other problem was that if you look here, there's this plastic railing that in silver that goes all the way around, and I think it's so fine and so kind of, I wouldn't say finicky, but it's so kind of fragile or delicate that I think this probably would have been better had they made it out of metal, even if it was like a tin or aluminum or something like that, because this piece here in the front keeps falling out. It was actually out when I purchased it, so when I got the box, and this piece was actually missing, and I spent about 10 minutes looking inside the box until I found it. So you barely have to touch it and it'll fall out. And then the other problem that I saw was, you can see here, this piece here kind of bends around here. Now it was okay on this end, but on the other end it's a little bit shorter, and these two pieces here weren't actually installed in it. They were popped out and just sitting out. When you try to put them back into the holes, the plastic here on the corners is actually cracked or very, very weak. So if you're not careful with it, it can actually break, and I ended up having to glue the pieces on the other end to get it to stay in place. And what's really interesting is I found a couple of places like Olivia's Trains, they actually have pictures of these on their website where they're showing the model, and you can see that these two pieces here have actually popped out and are pointing upwards, and then this piece is actually installed the wrong way around, pointing upwards as well. So obviously it's not just the one that I had, that it seems to be a bit of a design problem with this particular Heljan locomotive. So this piece of plastic on the other side, you can even see where the little kind of pegs are that go into the locomotive. It's already cracked or kind of I wouldn't say warped, but the plastic is kind of misshapen and miscolored. So you're gonna have to be very careful with it, or it's gonna break. So what I did was I glued pieces that were sticking out into place, and it seems to be okay once I did that. And I did that while I was gluing on the extra detailing and so on. And that's the only real problem with it. But like I said, if you were paying £114 for it, I wouldn't have been too pleased with it myself. At £89, I probably would have lived with it, but I may have been contacting Hattons and at least looking for replacement parts. But these things are tricky to get out, so if you try to pry them out, you're going to break them. It's that fragile. So unfortunately, I think Hattons, maybe if they do this again, or Heljan do it again, my suggestion would be to replace this really thin plastic railing with metal. Would be a good choice. So in addition to the Class 14 here, it's being pulled, or it's pulling a number of Dapol hoppers. These are NCB coal hoppers, and they're the new ones. I think they're B1003, and they're pretty nice. One thing I did think that was kind of cool is the coal load is actually different in each one. I bought 3 of them, and the coal load that's in each hopper is completely different from each other. So I don't know if they do each one individually, or if they have a couple of different molds, and I was just lucky enough to get 3 that were different. But it's a pretty cool touch. The only thing I thought they could have done was the wheels on each of the hoppers. While the hoppers are weathered, the wheels aren't. The wheels are still really shiny, so I think I'm going to have to pop those off and paint them black, so that they look more in place with the rest of the thing. But other than that, it looks real nice, and I was quite happy that I found after I ordered it that D9535 was actually an NCB loco after it was sold from British Steel. So it'll go well with these Hoppers. So the next thing I'm going to do in this video, since I've been talking way too much, is I'm going to do a pan around and I'll point out the extra detailing that I glued on, and then we'll do a slow speed, regular speed performance test, and we'll leave a few shots of the locomotive. So you can see there, the front of the loco has a head code, some numbering. You can see there the detailing is really good on the buffer beam, and all the detailing on the side is also really well done. I looked at several photos of these and it is done very nicely. You can't see where I glued the step ladders back on there, and you can sort of see there where the railing is a little bit bent, and I don't know if you can see depending on how well I did it. The corner there that was glued looks like it's pretty hard to tell. And there you can see the coal loads on the hoppers there are slightly different from each other. And I will, these are the Dapol or Dapol NCB weathered hoppers there, and you can see just the wheels just look a little bit out of place. They're a little bit too shiny. You can see I only put the NEM coupling on one end, and you can see that it still fits pretty nicely around the buffer beams. The buffers on this are sprung, but they're not your usual Heljan, not quite sprung. You can see here, this is one of the extra details that I glued on, and then if you get on here, you can see I also glued on the other ones for the brakes as well. Okay. And so that's basically it for that. So we're going to do the performance test, and then we'll go from there. Okay, there you have it. That's the Class 14 from Heljan, special edition from Hattons. Hope you enjoy the video, and until next time.